answering your questions about how much West End actors really get paid. I made this video sharing with you guys exactly how much, penny for penny, pound for pound, West End actors are making currently in London, and you guys were shooketh. I did not realise that people didn't have this information. I had no idea that people didn't know these numbers, so I am so glad that I was able to make this video and share the nitty-gritty, deep dark truth with you all. And today I am answering your most asked questions from that video. Stay tuned until the final point, by the way, because this is something that I think is going to really shock people. For those of you that don't know me, hi, my name's Georgie. I'm an actor. I've appeared in the West End in lots of different shows, and I started this YouTube channel to share my my tips, tricks, and insights with you guys about what it is really like to be an actor. The good, the bad, the ugly. If that sounds like your kind of thing, click the subscribe button. I make videos every single week. Follow me over on TikTok. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me everywhere. Don't follow me home though, because that would be weird. So in the interests of being very, very professional and doing my job really, really well, I actually went to Equity with your guys' questions to make sure that I had the exact correct responses. Equity were fantastic. They were so detailed and so informative and so helpful. So I would like to give a shout out to Hannah at Equity and say thank you so much for all of your help and sorry for all of the questions. So the first question that actually a lot of people asked me is, do swings/dance captains get paid a responsibility fee, or is that included in their swing additional payment? So essentially most people were asking, do swings, as well as getting a payment simply for being a swing, get another payment on top of that every time they go on for a member of the ensemble? And the answer to that question is no, they do not. So the minimum payment, as I said in my previous video, that a swing can be paid is £69 for being a swing. Being a swing is very different to being an understudy. When you're an understudy, you get a responsibility fee, so the responsibility of learning that role and keeping that role in your mind if you ever need to do it. And you also get a performance fee, so going on in the role, performing the role in the actual show. Swings do not get that. Swings get a swing payment of no less than £69 per week. This payment covers whether they go on or whether they don't. So they get this payment regardless. This covers the responsibility of learning all of the tracks and also performing in those tracks. Comment down below, let me know if you think that's good enough. Do you think swings should be paid more for a very, very, very difficult job? This applies to performing up to 3 featured roles in the ensemble during a performance. So if a swing was to go on for 3 roles, like do like a little mixture, up to 3 roles, they wouldn't get paid extra, which I did not actually realise. So that's good to know. Another question I got asked quite a lot is, what criteria is used to determine a lead role and to determine a supporting lead role? So essentially, how do the production pick if a role is a lead role or it's considered more of a supporting role? Interesting fact, in Les Mis, some of the roles that you would think are lead roles, say Cosette for example, are actually not billed as lead roles. They are billed as supporting lead roles. So that's something really interesting that I don't think a lot of people know, and it is something that is actually really tricky to answer. There isn't a sort of cut, copy and paste of this process. It really depends on the show. Lead role, I feel like, is pretty easy to tell who the lead role is. It's the person who is pretty much never off stage. They're constantly on, they're constantly singing or acting or dancing. They're in pretty much every number. When it gets into supporting lead, that is a little bit trickier to determine. And Equity did say to me in their email that usually they are informed when a cast is being put together or when a production is being put together, and they also sort of get to go and check whether this has been done accurately or not accurately. They did actually send me a little breakdown of how these are categorized, so I'm going to read those to you now.
So, role is categorized as a part that is substantially different from other parts. A supporting role is a role which is neither a leading role nor ensemble. A feature, which is another one to add in, is where a member of the ensemble undertakes a solo requiring special rehearsal or skills which could not necessarily be undertaken by any ensemble member. The feature may appear in a number of different scenes, but is smaller than a supporting role. It may incorporate part of a song, a short solo dance, or a few lines of speech.
So a feature is actually kind of one step below a supporting role, and they can be really tricky to differentiate. So I think a good example would potentially be when I was in Beautiful, the Carole King musical. I played Marilyn, who is a featured ensemble role because I had a few lines, I had a character name, and I also sang a portion of a song on my own. So that could be categorized as something that not anyone could do in the ensemble because it requires a particular skill set. However, it's not a supporting role because it's not quite as big as some of the supporting roles. Say the mum or the manager of the record label, for example. Those are supporting roles, but then Marilyn would be a featured ensemble role. So the third question was, are you given the opportunity to renegotiate your contract or wages, or do you keep the same pay throughout your run? So if you sign a contract for a year-long run in the West End in a musical, you will keep the exact same pay, the exact same contract for the length of that contract. So whether you are contracted for 6 months, whether you're contracted for a year, 18 months, that contract doesn't change. So that's why negotiations and agents are really, really important from the get-go. You want to make sure that you are negotiating what you want from the very start, because once you've signed on the dotted line, it's really, really hard to change anything or get out of anything. So that's why negotiations are super, super important. This does change when it gets to the end of the contract, or if you get to a cast change. So for example, in a long-running West End show, every year there is a cast change, and this is usually when most people's contracts also run out. So this is an opportunity to renegotiate your fee, renegotiate your role, renegotiate your place within the company, and see if there's any opportunity for a pay increase or an extra cover or something along those lines. Another really common question was all about tax. Do you have to pay tax on the wages that I spoke about in my previous video on this subject? And the answer to that question is yes, you do. As an actor in a West End show, you are classified as self-employed. So you will have to declare yourself as self-employed when you graduate from drama school, whenever you start your journey working in the industry. And so that's something else to really think about, is you don't, like on PAYE, for example, you don't get your taxes automatically taken off when you get your pay through. You have to put money aside for your taxes and for your national insurance. So you have to make sure that you're saving a percentage of your wage every single week to pay to the taxman at the end of the tax year. So that's another thing when looking at the wage initially. It does seem like quite a lot, maybe it doesn't. I've had a lot of messages from people being like, wow, that is just not a lot of money at all. You know, it is an amount of money, but you also have to remember with that amount of money, some of that you just have to pretend isn't even there. So that's why I think it's quite helpful to, when you see that amount, take a percentage off of it and think, right, that is not mine, that is for tax, and then see what you're left with, as well as obviously taking off your agent's cut if you have an agent. So here we are, we're at the big one. This is something that I think is really going to shock a lot of people, and I would love to hear your comments down below, your opinions on this. It's all to do with standard contracted hours in the West End, and yeah, I think this is something that might surprise a lot of people about the amount of hours that you can be expected to work when you're in a West End show. I know a lot of people think, and I know I used to think, that if you were in a show in the West End, you just kind of rocked up at 6 p.m, had a lovely time, home by like 10:30, and that was sort of it every day, and you had a day off. But that is not always the case. What are the standard contracted hours for an 8-week show? The answer, up to 40 hours. However, this is highly unlikely to be the norm. This would usually take place during previews, tech time, and also potentially during a cast change as well. I'll just read you the little professional equity bit that they sent me. During a full working week in the performance period, the actor's salary covers 40 hours of work exclusive of all breaks, other than the 15-minute breaks set out in clause 3411. So there you go, 40 hours. What do you think of that? Do you think that's a lot? Do you think that's not much? And also, if you think that's a lot, when you think about how much the actors are getting paid, you can find all of that information in my previous video on this subject. But yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts, so leave me a comment down below. If you are hanging around and you haven't yet watched my video all about West End wages, I will leave it here, so you can just click on that and it will take you straight to the video. I'll also link a little playlist of some of my other theatre videos below, so if you fancy a little stagey theatre binge, just click on that playlist. Thanks so much for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.